So it's almost impossible to beat that rate. And people who think they can for a time end up gambling more, and they win for a year on
And they
somebody
lose.
else's
Yeah.
loss, and then they lose everything. So, and that happens at a greater and greater rate in the existing system. In Bitcoin, because it's a transfer into the new system, what that means is the rate of return implied for Bitcoin is a staggering rate of return.
Yep.
It's a and so I need to beat that rate of return to build not in fiat terms. I need to beat the rate
In
of
real terms.
return
Yeah.
in Bitcoin, in real terms, in
Right.
Bitcoin terms, to be able to do that. And I believe that we can massively beat that rate of return by investing in companies that extend the Bitcoin network and drive this future that we're talking about right now.
Right. So probably you will beat Bitcoin rate of return like over time because like since the past decade, Bitcoin like appreciated in value for like 150% per year, which is huge.
Yeah. Now, but I think a better way to look at it now. I know everybody looks at it, and when you say the 150 percent rate of
Percent. Yeah.
return, yeah, what you're actually talking about is measured in fiat dollars,
Right. Yeah. You're right. Yep.
and it's how powerful that narrative is over our brain. We measure everything in the fiat dollars versus the
Yep.
Bitcoin dollars.
You're right. Yep.
And instead, turn that equation on its head. 5 years ago, my home would have cost me 2,000 Bitcoin. Now my home costs me 50 Bitcoin. A
Yep.
couple of years from now, my home will probably cost 2 or 3 Bitcoin. And what that's saying is prices are falling everywhere when measured in a currency that can't be manipulated.
That's true. Yep.
Right. And so what's actually happening, because the rate of return on Bitcoin in Lebanon or in Venezuela is way higher than it is in the US. And each country's rate of return, if you're measuring in the fiat currency, all you're doing is measuring from the broken currency.
Yep.
You're measuring the truth. And so you have to flip that on your head, its head. And actually you have to do that to be able to see what's actually happening in the real economy as well. And you have to forecast what would what would happen if a monetary unit can't be debased. And some industries would fall to zero way faster in price. And some industries would lag as they became more and more automated by technology. And then they would fall faster as well.
Yep. Actually, if you look at the Bitcoin in terms of Lebanon currency, Bitcoin already made like new all-time high. And yeah, the same goes with like Argentina, Turkish lira, and many other countries that basically inflated their fiat currencies.
Yeah, and what it's saying is, if you just follow that logic, if prices fall to the marginal cost of production, which they do in a free market for sure,
Hmm.
it, if you have exponentially increasing productivity, then as long as Bitcoin stays decentralized and secure, then it is inevitable that it reprices the entire global financial system, not the other way
Right.
around. And most people, even in Bitcoin, are measuring Bitcoin from their fiat instrument versus things priced in Bitcoin, which is probably the right way to look at it.
Yep. Yeah, everything falls in terms of Bitcoin.
Everything falls forever. So why so that thesis that I put out in Price of Tomorrow,
Hmm.
I kept on trying to challenge that thesis because anything new that is we've never seen before,
Hmm.
it feels like such a stretch for our brain, right? So
Yep. We have to
and
think
it's
differently,
you
basically.
have to think totally differently.
Yep.
And we're so used to thinking one way and why the world works this way. So imagine a system that's this big, that's touching everything we do, and somebody says a system could work better in this way. It's really hard for our brain to not drag all of the biases from the old system into the new, because new systems have to be intuited from first principles. You have to because the data, all of the data around us is data from the existing system. CPI rate, GDP, all of these things are constructs. I mean, it means what we measure from the existing system, we cannot measure in the new system. We have to find
That's right.
different
Yeah.
ways. We have to, those are all the things that we measure and look at in the papers and the news media and everything else is a construct from our existing way of life. And so to understand what something will look like, what what was what were people's expectations from the iPhone before the iPhone was out? They wanted bigger buttons on their phone, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
BlackBerry.
BlackBerry, um,
Yeah.
and they didn't know. So anytime you're inventing the future or predicting the future,
They don't know
you
what
have
they
to
want. Yeah.
exactly. You have to predict all of these behaviors, and you have to predict what would happen on a new set of rules, and what would that look like, and then how would that expand. And why I keep going back to this is I tried to disprove this hypothesis. I tried to
Hmm.
disprove Bitcoin. I tried to say, how would I kill it? What would happen? And as I did, it only got stronger and stronger. And my mental model of the world, you've just read my book. It was
Right.
written 4 years. It was written 4 years ago. And what you can see in that is it's almost like a prediction of the future. It's a prediction of today.